Fog and firelight. The fog began before the town sign appeared. It crept low through the trees, a pale teal day curling around bent mile markers and a rusted guardrail where the road gave way to dirt. Nathaniel Quinn eased his old Land Rover to a crawl. The tires whispered over gravel. The headlights illuminated perhaps 10 feet ahead, just enough to see how much he couldn't. He cracked the driver's side window. The air outside smelled of smoke, moss, and something older than either. The sharp sweetness of autumn rot. Nathaniel didn't mind. He'd driven north from New York in silence. No music, no news. Only the hum of the engine and the occasional flash of memory that wasn't his. That morning, while packing the last box of books, he'd remembered being stabbed in the ribs outside a tavern in Rome. The memory was a flicker, but the smell of vinegar, iron, and wet cobblestone had stayed in his nose for hours. That kind of thing happened more often now. He hadn't planned to leave the city. The curated chaos of his Lower East Side bookshop, specializing in rare and first editions, had been his sanctuary for nearly a decade. He loved the stacks of bindings, the scent of vellum, the bone-white quiet of the reading areas. Now it didn't fit anymore. Things had been happening, the uncanny kind. The man with no shadows came in, asking for a book that shouldn't exist. He'd found a photograph tucked in a 16th century grimoire, with his own face, wearing a frock coat, and the same silver ring that now hung from a leather cord around his neck. The dreams grew stranger. One day in October, it felt like the mirrors had started watching him back. He left a week later. No farewells, no drawn-out goodbyes. A friend of a friend arranged a sublet in a place called Mourner's Crossing, Connecticut. A caretaker's cottage, hidden behind a house called Colgrave. The rent was cheap. The grounds were overgrown. No neighbors. Apparently, the owners of Colgrave House were away in Europe. Perfect. It also sounded like running away. But no, not that. Just a change of scenery. One he desperately needed. As the car rounded a bend off I-84, a wooden sign appeared in the headlights. Welcome to Mourner's Crossing. Established 1694. Population varies. He slowed the Land Rover, squinting. Varies. That's comforting. In the rear view, his reflection stared back. Pale, lightly freckled skin. Short red hair neatly parted. Bright green eyes under tired lids. Not striking, but distinct. Irish, in the way old women on the subway called him Boyo and asked if he was from the old country. 35, 5'10", a runner's build, kept more out of habit than vanity. Wool sweater, worn jeans, boots that had walked through more than one kind of ruin. Stillness wrapped around him, less tension than surrender. He hadn't spoken to his family since he left. They were in Northampton, Massachusetts. His mother, warm and scattered, ran a pub called Blythe Spirits and sent him prayer candles every solstice. His father, a retired MBTA lineman, big, burly, stern but loving, used his conductor's voice to ask every holiday when Nathaniel would move closer to home. His siblings, Aisling and Brendan, had lives of their own. Text chains, postcards, and the occasional FaceTime kept them in orbit. None of them knew about the dreams, the past lives, or the whisper he'd heard in the shop the night before he left. You've returned to too soon, Quinn. The Land Rover's headlights flickered. The town emerged like a repressed memory. Shuttered colonial shops, a diner, leaning porches, a chapel steeple swallowed by haze. Street lamps glowed dimly, like fireflies, trying to remember how to shine. The town wasn't empty. It felt paused, watchful. As he passed the green, a large cat crossed the road. Tuxedo markings, white monocle ring around one eye. It stopped, stared directly at him, then vanished into the fog. That rattled him more than it should have. His hand drifted to the ring at his neck. He didn't know where it came from, only that he'd found it as a child in the lining of a coat his parents swore they never bought. In his dreams, he wore it while holding a sword, sometimes a quill, once a gun. He turned down a narrow lane flanked by hedges. The gravel crackled under the tires. A moss-eaten sign emerged, its paint faded but legible. Colgrave House, Caretaker's Lane. Private. He took the turn. Behind him for just a moment, the fog curled forward, reaching after the car like something reluctant to let him go. The caretaker's cottage. The turnoff was easy to miss. A warped wooden post marked Colgrave House, Caretaker's Lane. Hand-painted in black and half swallowed by ivy was the only indicator. Nathaniel eased the Land Rover past it, tires crackling over gravel. The lane led into a tunnel of overgrown branches. The fog thickened, clinging low, reluctant to rise. Even with headlights, the world felt dim, muted, like someone had scrubbed the color out. The trees fell back, the lane curved, and there it was, Colgrave House. It hunched at the far end of a wide lawn, stately, silent. 3 stories of weathered stone and paned glass, with a widow's walk perched on top like it hadn't held a soul in 100 years. A grand old thing, wearing its legacy like a mourning veil. Ivy clung to the chimneys. One window shutter tapped softly, though no breeze stirred. Half hidden behind black walnut trees stood the caretaker's cottage. Nathaniel parked on flattened grass and stepped out. The cottage was modest, white clapboard, pitched roof, narrow porch sagging just enough to notice, but intact. Lived in. Tidy. A ring of pumpkins sat on the steps, not carved, just placed, like offerings. He couldn't tell if it was a welcome from the landlord or the town. The air here smelled different, older, earthy, and powerful. He turned to glance toward the main house, then froze. In one of the second-story windows, behind shuttered glass, something moved. A shape, brief, dark, indistinct. The impression of someone watching through lace, even though the house was supposed to be empty. He blinked. Gone. Right, he muttered, raking a hand through his red hair. Off to a strong start. The key was where the landlord said it would be, under the left stone lion beside the porch. The lion's face was worn smooth, but its eyes remained sharp, judging. The key itself was large, brass, and old, heavier than it looked. The front door creaked as he pushed it open, like it hadn't quite decided to let him in. Inside, the cottage was dim. Hardwood floors gleamed faintly. smelled of mothballs and chimney soot. Simple layout. Front room with a stone hearth, kitchen to the right, narrow stairway to a loft bedroom above. Dust in corners, but someone had cleaned recently. A bowl of apples sat on the counter. Fresh. Someone had been here, not long ago. Nathaniel sat down his duffel and the crate of books. The first spine to catch his eye. La Vita Nova. Dante. Worn. Familiar. Too familiar. He walked to the window and glanced toward Colgrave House, still shuttered. But he felt it. A pressure low in his chest. Not dread. Recognition. Like hearing a song you didn't know you knew the words to. The floorboards creaked upstairs. He froze. No wind, no birds. Just that sound, long and slow. He waited. Silence. Then, click. The closet door beside the stairs cracked open. Just a sliver. Nathaniel crossed the room and opened it fully. Empty. Just a broom, a frayed coat, and dark. He exhaled, closed it gently, and locked it. Later he'd tell himself the wood had swollen, that he'd left a window cracked. That sound moved strangely in old places. He'd believe none of it. That evening, while unpacking, he found a photo tucked inside La Vita Nova. A sepia portrait. A man in a 19th century frock coat standing in front of Colgrave House. The man looked exactly like him. Traffic stop. A quick trip to the town for coffee had been the plan. Mourner's Crossing didn't have a cafe in the city sense. No baristas, curated playlists, or sleek punch cards with crooked hearts. Just a diner with an ancient register, a cracked countertop in boomerang print, and a small, smiling woman named Bethany, who proudly offered 3 kinds of creamer. Nathaniel took his coffee black. The road back to the cottage curved through the woods slick with early fog. He drove slowly, one hand on the wheel, the other clutching the paper cup like it might warm more than just his fingers. The cottage had been still when he left. Too still. Kind of silence that felt full. Like it was listening. He was nearing the turn for Colgrave House when he saw the lights. Blue and red, pulsing quick in the rearview mirror. Frowning, he pulled over and rolled the window down. The cruiser behind him crunched to a stop. A beat passed. The door opened. A tall, broad-shouldered officer stepped out. Mid-30s, maybe younger. Sandy blonde hair, long limbs. The posture of a man who hadn't expected to be doing this today. One hand on his belt, the other adjusting a nameplate that caught the light. Saint Oxenstierna. Nathaniel raised an eyebrow. "That's a hell of a name," he said, trying to lighten the mood. The officer blinked, cerulean blue eyes, startled. Yeah, I get that a lot." Charming, Nathaniel noted. Disarmingly so. "Do people ever pronounce it right?" "Not even my boss." The officer smiled. Pause. Fog curled between them. Nathaniel offered a faint smile. "I wasn't speeding." "No, sir, you were going very slowly. Like funeral procession slow, which is unusual." Nathaniel made a thoughtful sound. "Well, officer, I like to see where I'm going." The officer nodded, as if conceding that was fair. "You new in town?" "Just arrived." "Name?" "Nathaniel Quinn." Another pause. The officer tilted his head slightly. "Funny. Didn't think anyone was renting that cottage." Nathaniel blinked. "Pardon?" "I saw you turn onto Colgrave Lane. That's where you're headed, right?" "I'm subletting the caretaker's cottage behind the main house," Nathaniel said slowly. "Arranged through a friend? The owner's abroad, apparently." The officer looked mildly troubled. Not alarmed, just uncertain. Like he knew more than he could say. "That place usually isn't occupied." "Well," Nathaniel said, "it is now. I mean, people have tried. They don't stay." Nathaniel let the silence stretch. Then Riley. "Should I be concerned?" The officer scratched his neck. "Not unless you're allergic to cold spots and weird dreams. I've lived in Brooklyn." "Touché." He stepped back a little, reassessing, cautious, curious. "I'm Teddy, by the way," the officer said, extending a hand. "Teddy St. Oxton Stierna." "Nathaniel," he replied, shaking it. "Just Nathaniel is fine." Teddy hesitated, blushing. "I don't want to spook you." "Okay, that's a lie. I kinda do. But if you start hearing voices or seeing lights out there, maybe don't call the station. Just come find me." Nathaniel arched an eyebrow. "Why not the station?" "Because Deputy Merritt will answer, say it's raccoons, and hang up." "Is it raccoons?" "I'm not ruling it out," Teddy said. "But probably not." Something in his voice made Nathaniel's neck prickle. Not quite fear, more like anticipation. They stood there, facing each other a beat too long. "You've been out there before?" Nathaniel said. Teddy blinked. "To Colgrave?" "You know it better than you let on." He looked like he might deny it, but didn't. Instead, he sighed and leaned on the cruiser doorframe. "Look, I don't know what you believe, okay? But that house, it remembers. Everyone in town ends up looking toward that hill eventually. You're not the first stranger to rent the cottage. You're just the first one who looks like he already knows how it ends." Nathaniel held his gaze. Teddy shifted, sheepish. "Also, you should really get your taillight checked." Nathaniel exhaled a faint laugh. "I'll add it to the list, Officer Teddy." Teddy grinned. "Welcome to Mourner's Crossing, Nathaniel. If you want coffee that doesn't taste like potting soil, go see Wren up at the main house. She won't like you, but she makes a hell of a cup." "Noted." Teddy turned to go, then hesitated, over his shoulder. "You know, people say deja vu is the soul recognizing places it's already been." Nathaniel tilted his head. "And what do you think it is?" Teddy gave a crooked smile. "I think you're the first person I've ever met who makes me feel it." He climbed back into the cruiser, flicked off the lights, and pulled away. Nathaniel sat for a moment, processing, coffee cooling in his hand, fog folding in. Then he turned back onto the lane, toward Colgrave House. Nightfall. The cottage was colder than it had any right to be. Nathaniel built a fire the old-fashioned way. Crumpled newspaper, dry kindling, and the click of the old lighter he'd kept since his days cataloging first editions in a Chelsea loft. The flames caught quickly, casting long shadows across the floorboards and into the corners the overhead light didn't reach. He didn't turn that light on. The fire was warmer, truer. Outside, the trees stirred, branches rasping in the breeze like dry lips sharing secrets. Every so often, he thought he saw movement past the porch, just outside the ring of pumpkins. Flickers, shapes. Nothing crossed into the glow. He set his coffee on the hearth and pulled a blanket over his shoulders, settling cross-legged onto the old couch with a book in his lap. La Vita Nova. Dante again. He hadn't meant to grab it, but it had found its way to the top of the crate. He turned the page. A photograph slipped free. He froze. Reaching down, he picked it up, carefully. Sepia-toned, worn edges. A man stood in front of Colgrave house near the main porch. Early 20th century, judging by the three-piece suit and high-collared coat. Nathaniel stared. It was him. Not just similar. Him. The shoulders, the jaw, the slight curl of the fingers like he'd once trained with a blade. And the ring. The same silver ring, now hanging from a leather cord at his throat. He set the photo aside, slowly, like it might burn. Rising, he walked to the window, looked toward the dark silhouette of Colgrave house. Shutters closed, but one window, 3rd floor, glowed faintly from within. He turned away. The book lay open on the couch. Dante's words stared up at him, aching. He closed it carefully, set it aside, climbed the narrow stairs to the loft. The bedroom was small and clean, angled ceiling, low beams. A full-length mirror leaned against the wall by the bed. He remembered covering it earlier, not from superstition, just preference. The blanket had slipped off. The mirror reflected the firelight below, twisted by age into something unsteady. His own face stared back, hollow-eyed and flickering. Then it rippled, like water. He stepped closer. The mirror showed a room he wasn't standing in. Stone walls, candles, someone kneeling. No. He staggered back, blinked. The reflection snapped back. Sweating, Nathaniel breathed deep, crossed the room, replaced the blanket, pressed his palm to the glass, just once. It was warm. He undressed methodically, folded clothes over the chair, boots beside the bed, climbed beneath clean, institutional sheets. On his back, he stared at the low beam above. A soft thump downstairs, then a creak. Floorboards shifting, that was all. Old houses breathed. They moved like lungs. He turned on his side and whispered, without thinking, "I know. I've been here before." No reply from the room. But the mirror creaked under its blanket, as if to agree. He woke at 3:14 a.m. Of course he did. No sound woke him, just a certainty that something had changed. The fire was out, coals red, the cottage still. Nathaniel sat up. The mirror was uncovered. His reflection smiled, only for a second. Then it matched him again, perfectly still and terrified. Theodore. Teddy St. Oxenstierna didn't remember falling asleep. He remembered feeding Muffin, checking the station locks, and trying not to think about the strange red-haired man with the too quiet voice and eyes like sea glass. He remembered how Colgrave Lane looked under fog, how the cottage porch light flickered like a pulse. Then he blinked, and the world was wrong. He stood barefoot on the town green, the grass cold and wet with dew. The sky above was the color of rusted iron. All the street lamps were out. The chapel was gone, and Colgrave House was on fire. Not smoke, flame. Roaring, white hot. Wrong. No heat reached him, no ash, just light. The windows glowed like tiny suns. The shape stood in the highest window, tall, unmoving, burning. He tried to shout. No sound came. His hands wouldn't move. Then he saw him. Quinn. Barefoot, blood-stained, calmly descending the front steps. Hair soaked, collar torn. His eyes. They found Teddy's like they'd always known where to look. He opened his mouth and spoke. Teddy didn't hear the words. He felt them. Like memory, like mourning. And then, the mirror shattered. The sound tore through him like a shockwave. Glass, silver, teeth. Teddy woke, gasping, tangled in sheets, breath ragged. No fire, no Quinn. The name lingered on his lips like he'd whispered it in his sleep. Quinn. He rubbed his face, swung his legs over the side of the bed, reached for his glass of water, and froze. His bedroom mirror was cracked. A single fracture, clean and diagonal, top to bottom. He stood, crossed to it. In the warped glass, his own reflection stared back. And just for a moment, before his breath fogged the center, he could have sworn he saw Nathaniel Quinn standing behind him. Lou's Diner. Quinn woke to sunlight filtered through leaves. Soft light cut across the cottage bedroom window. The fire had gone out. Only faintly glowing embers remained. The mirror was still covered. He had no memory of falling asleep. The photograph, the one with his face, was gone. He searched briefly, under the couch, between pages of La Veda Nova, even outside, near the frost-sagging pumpkins. Nothing. By the time he pulled on his boots, his hands were shaking. Not from fear, from too many questions and no one to ask. The town stirred as he reached Main Street. Mourners Crossing wore mourning well, fog thinning as sunlight filtered through. He found the diner by scent. Burnt toast, over-percolated coffee, pancakes, bacon, deep-fried sugar, and something faintly sweet. The sign just said diner, nothing more. Inside, the warmth hit him like an embrace he hadn't asked for. Booths along the wall, cracked vinyl but clean. A counter of mismatched mugs and a sugar jar missing its lid. Exactly 5 patrons, all of whom looked up when he entered. A small blonde woman behind the counter gave him a once-over, not unkind, just assessing. You're the Colgrave house guy. Quinn blinked. Excuse me? She nodded. Caretaker's cottage? Everyone's talking. That place hasn't been rented in years. Before he could reply, a voice from the corner window booth. Hey, Quinn! Officer Teddy St. Oxtentierna sat behind a plate of pancakes and a half-dozen syrup packets, peeling them open like a science project. He waved his fork like they were old friends. Nathaniel made his way over. Morning, Teddy said, patting the seat across from him. Didn't peg you for a diner guy. I'm not, Quinn said, sliding in. Apparently I am now. Teddy grinned. It happens fast here. Quinn looked at him. Also, Quinn? Teddy shrugged. You look like a Quinn. Nathaniel's formal. You're not a Nate. Definitely not a Nat. That okay? Quinn considered it, then nodded. Quinn is fine. The waitress appeared like smoke. What'll it be, Quinn? So seamless it startled him. Just coffee. Black. Teddy raised an eyebrow. That's it? I don't eat much in the mornings, or at all. The waitress gave him a sideways look. Let me guess. You're a tea person? I was, in another life. Teddy blinked, unsure if that was a joke. The coffee arrived. No further comment. They sat in quiet, fork scraping, radio humming. Small-town peace Quinn didn't trust. You sleep okay? Teddy finally asked. Quinn sipped. Define okay. So, no. I woke at 3:14 a.m. Teddy stopped chewing. That's specific, isn't it? They stared at each other. The silence didn't feel tense. It felt familiar. Teddy leaned back. I had a dream about the house last night. Fire? Teddy tensed. Yeah. You weren't in it, Quinn said quietly. You were watching. Teddy was still. Then, you were there too. Quinn nodded. I usually am. Pause. I didn't want to ask, Teddy said, poking his pancakes. But, have you always had this ghost thing? Quinn smiled faintly. It's not ghosts. No? No. It's memory. Teddy frowned. Yours? Yes. But not from now? Not from this life. Teddy exhaled. Okay. Quinn blinked. That's it? Just okay? I mean, it's weird, Teddy admitted. But you don't strike me as the lying type. And honestly, I've seen weirder. Like what? Last spring, a guy brought in a raccoon wearing a crucifix and said it was his reincarnated uncle. What happened to the raccoon? It bit me. Quinn laughed. First time since arriving. Teddy grinned. You'll do fine here, Quinn. The bell above the door jingled as someone entered. Quinn didn't turn. He didn't need to. Something had already shifted. And Teddy, of all people, had given him a name. Remembered. Quinn returned to the cottage just after noon. The air smelled like wood smoke, petrichor, and distant rain. The pumpkins had started to rot. One collapsed inward like a deflated lung. He stepped onto the porch and froze. The front door was ajar. He hadn't left it that way. Inside, the air was colder than it should have been. Not a chill. Cold. Cellar cold. Stone and morning frost cold. He moved carefully. No sign of forced entry. No broken glass. Nothing missing. Nothing out of place. Until he saw the firewood bin. The logs had been arranged in a perfect spiral on the floor. Tight, intentional, ritualistic. At the center sat the missing photograph. The man with his face, the same ring, the same eyes. And now, scrawled on the back in spidery black ink, Nathaniel Quinn Colgrave. He dropped it like it burned. Upstairs, the mirror groaned. Quinn turned, already moving. The loft was too dark. The window had been shut. The mirror's blanket folded neatly at the foot of the bed. The glass no longer showed the room. It displayed a stone hallway, torch lit, walls slick with damp. Footsteps echoed. Then, him, wearing black robes, a silver ring, a whip in one hand. His face was the same, but older, colder, eyes blank. Not wild, righteous. Quinn staggered, chest aching, like ribs remembering a break they hadn't earned. The reflection stepped closer. He met its eyes. There was nothing human behind them. Confessor, judge, executioner. The reflection raised its hand. So did Quinn, without thinking, mirroring it. The ring on the reflection's finger began to glow. So did the one around Quinn's neck. He tore the cord free. The mirror shattered. Cold slammed into him. The lights flickered. Below, the spiral collapsed with a thump. Quinn stood shaking, the ring in his fist. Blood ran from a fresh cut across his palm. It wasn't over. It had just begun. He staggered down the stairs, wrapping his hand in a dish towel. The front door hung wide open. Fog spilled across the threshold like a held breath. Then, footsteps. Running. A figure burst from the mist, breathless, wide-eyed. Teddy. He stopped short at the doorway, took in the blood, the look on Quinn's face. Quinn! Fuck! What happened? Quinn didn't answer. Teddy stepped in, closed the door behind him, locked it. I had a feeling, he said. Went to the library, but something told me to check on you. I don't know why, His gaze dropped to the ring, then the photo. His expression changed. Quinn, he said softly. You never told me your full name. I don't use it. But it's Colgrave. Quinn didn't deny it. Teddy exhaled. Why didn't you say anything? I didn't remember. Not until now. Teddy crouched, picked up the photo, studied the face. It's you. I think it's who I was. Was? I don't know who I am anymore. Thunder cracked. Windows rattled. Teddy looked up. Eyes steady. Blue. kind. Whatever this place is doing to you, it doesn't get to have you." Quinn stared at him, breath ragged. "You don't understand. I don't need to." Teddy's voice was calm, firm. "Just stay here, with me, in this moment. Not wherever that mirror just tried to take you." The house creaked. Quinn swayed and collapsed. Teddy caught him. He stared at the name, Colgrave, a name he hadn't used in years, not since he'd left everything behind. Quinn was easier, cleaner, but the truth had always been there, waiting in the mirror. Sanctuary. The first thing Quinn felt was warmth. Not firelight warmth, living warmth. Cotton, flannel, the soft weight of a blanket, the faint scent of detergent and something woodsy, pine, maybe cedar. He blinked. The ceiling wasn't the cottage loft. Wood-paneled, lived in. A ceiling fan turned lazily above, squeaking every third rotation. Quinn sat up too fast. Pain lanced through his temple. "Hey, easy," said a voice from the doorway. Teddy, barefoot, hair damp, 2 mugs in one hand, a towel slung over his shoulder. "I didn't mean to fall asleep," Quinn croaked. "You didn't," Teddy said. "You passed out cold. Blood loss and shock. Classic combo." Quinn took in the room. Small apartment, queen-sized bed, books stacked everywhere. A calico blanket stitched with a bear paw pattern. One framed photo. Teddy with an older woman in uniform. His mother, maybe. The Mourners Crossing PD jacket was folded over a chair. His hand was bandaged, tight, clean. He flexed his fingers, stiff but functional. "You carried me." Teddy gave him a look. "You say that like it was difficult." "I'm not light." "You're bleeding, mysterious, and terrible at asking for help," Teddy said, settling beside him. "So I skipped the debate and did the right thing." Quinn swallowed. The ring was gone from his neck. "You took it off." "It was glowing and burning through your shirt. I didn't want it to eat your soul or something." "That's not how it works." "How does it work?" Quinn stared at the mug Teddy handed him. Steam curled from the rim. "I don't know." Teddy nodded. No alarm, just quiet acceptance. They sat in silence, the hum of traffic in the distance, a wind chime outside. "Your name," Teddy said at last. "Colgrave. That's not just a name here. That house." "I know." "Then why come back?" Quinn looked up, eyes wet. "Because I didn't remember. Not until the house started talking back." "Talking?" "Not in words. In reflections. In things that shouldn't be there. In lives I never lived, but remember anyway." He reached for the mug. His hand shook. Teddy noticed, said nothing. "I think I used to be someone terrible," Quinn whispered. "I think I hurt people. In other lives. In that house." Teddy leaned in, took his hand. "And in this life?" Quinn met his eyes. "I ran. I buried the name. I left people who loved me. I moved into a cottage with broken windows and no locks on the mirrors. His voice dropped. You tell me. You didn't hurt me. Yet. Teddy sat back. You think you're just waiting to become someone else. Think I already have. Teddy shook his head. No, you're scared, but you're not gone. The words hit harder than they should have. Quinn stared into the mug. Teddy stood, pulled a small tin from the shelf. First aid supplies. Mind if I redo the bandage? You bled through. Quinn hesitated, then held out his hand. Teddy knelt. Quiet fingers. Warm hands. No jokes, no commentary. Just care. You're good at this, Quinn said. My mom was a medic. I learned from her. Teddy worked the gauze and cleaned spirals. I have dreams, he said. Not just nightmares. Things that feel like memory. People I've never met. Words I wake up knowing. Quinn watched him. Teddy shrugged. Never told anyone. Figured it was just me. It's not just you. I know that now. He tied off the bandage, sat back. Their eyes met. And for a moment, Quinn thought, this is what safety feels like. Not a locked door, not solitude. This. Teddy looked away first. You can stay here tonight if you want. I don't want to endanger you. You already did. The house didn't care. That earned the faintest smile. Teddy stood. Sleep. I'll keep the mirror covered. Quinn nodded. Teddy paused in the doorway. Hey, Quinn? Yeah? If that thing in the mirror ever tries to pull you in again, don't go without me. Quinn didn't answer right away. Then softly, I won't. Quiet. Teddy woke to silence. Thin morning light spilled across the floorboards, soft and gray, filtered through fog that hadn't lifted yet. The apartment felt larger, like something had been subtracted from it overnight. He sat up. The blanket on the couch was still warm, folded. Quinn's coffee mug, rinsed, sat in the sink. And he was gone. Teddy stayed calm, at first. He checked the bathroom, the hall, opened the door, thinking maybe Quinn had stepped out for air. Nothing. No note, no message. Just the echoes of last night's firelight and the memory of Quinn's voice. I won't. Teddy ran a hand through his hair and swore. He should have known. Quinn wore silence like armor. You didn't get eyes like his, haunted and glass bright, without building escape routes into every moment of peace. Quinn wasn't just fleeing a past. He was one. Teddy looked around the apartment for answers. The couch where Quinn had slept. The neat bandage. The coffee mug with a faint lip print he hadn't wiped away. He closed his eyes. It wasn't just a stranger he'd let in. He'd let someone in. And now that someone had walked back into a house that didn't want to be forgiven. The kettle screamed, shrill and sudden. Teddy had forgotten he'd turned it on. He clicked it off, poured the water, didn't drink it. Instead, he walked to the bookshelf, pulled down a dust-dulled copy of Mourner's Local History, 1694 to present. His hands trembled slightly. There it was, near the back. The Colgrave family estate, 1886. A black and white photograph, 5 figures, blurred faces. One of them, Quinn's eyes. The caption had always been faint. Now, under the morning light, Teddy could just make it out. N. Quinn Colgrave, presumed drowned. His fingers clenched. Quinn hadn't just run. He'd gone back. Whatever waited in that house, whatever mirror shadow had been clawing through the glass, it wasn't done with him. Teddy grabbed his keys. The return. Teddy reached the base of the hill just as the fog began to rise again, like it had been waiting for him. Colgrave House loomed ahead, tall and skeletal, its shutters closed like eyes. The caretaker's lane was littered with wet leaves and old tire ruts. The air was too still. No birds, no wind, only the house, waiting. Teddy parked off to the side, left the cruiser running. The cottage looked wrong in daylight, too still. The pumpkins were gone. No rot, no scraps. Just an empty porch and a door cracked open like an invitation. He stepped inside. The spiral was black. Larger now. Ashes this time, not firewood. A perfect coil traced across the floor, edged with something sharp. Bone? Charcoal? Both. At the center, the silver ring, warm to the touch. "Quinn?" he called, soft at first, then louder. "Quinn!" No answer. He stepped over the spiral and climbed the stairs. Upstairs, the loft was dim, the window covered, the light choked out. The mirror stood fully uncovered. It didn't show the room. It showed a black stone corridor, oil lamps flickering, chains on the walls. Quinn stood in front of it, shirt soaked, perfectly still. His reflection wasn't his own. The man in the glass wore the same face, but colder, taller, eyes blank, hands folded like a priest preparing judgment. Teddy's breath caught. "Quinn!" No response. He stepped closer. "Hey, it's me." Quinn blinked, didn't turn. "He's close," he whispered. "The one I was. He knows I'm awake now." "Okay," Teddy said gently. "Then stay awake. Look at me." Quinn's hand shook. "I remember what I did," he said. "The dungeons, the salt, the trials. I was cruel. I made people confess things they didn't do. For purity, for control, for punishment. I watched them burn." Teddy's voice stayed steady. "That's not who you are now." "You don't know that." "I know you held my hand like it mattered." Quinn turned. Teddy stepped closer. "You think that mirror wants you?" he asked. "It doesn't. It wants him. It wants what he was. It wants to pull you under." Quinn's voice trembled. "I don't know how to stop it." "You don't have to." Teddy rested a hand over Quinn's. "You just have to choose not to be him." Quinn closed his eyes, and for one moment, just one. The mirror cracked. A single line, no shatter, just a hairline fracture, like lightning beneath glass. Then, stillness. Quinn exhaled. His knees buckled. Teddy caught him. The choice. They sat on the floor of the cottage, backs against the wall beneath the loft. The mirror upstairs was uncovered but silent. The spiral of ash had been swept away. The ring lay on the table between them, wrapped in cloth, fragile, dangerous. Quinn cradled a mug of tea. His bandaged hand trembled only slightly. Teddy hadn't left his side. "I think I know who I was," Quinn said quietly. Teddy didn't press, he only nodded. "In that life, the one in the mirror, I think I was a man named Colgrave. An ancestor, or an echo." He paused, like the words cost something. "He wasn't born cruel, but he became it, out of fear and power." Silence. "I remember what it felt like," Quinn whispered. "To pass judgment and believe it was righteous." "You're not him." "No." Quinn met his eyes. "I'm what's left after him." Silence again. Not heavy, just true. Teddy leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "When I was a kid, I had this dream. Over and over, a house on fire. Me outside it, screaming. No one ever came out." Quinn watched him. "I thought it meant I'd be alone when it mattered, that I couldn't stop the people I loved from walking into flames." He looked over. "But you walked out." Quinn didn't speak. "You said you wouldn't," Teddy added. "Going alone. But you did." "I didn't want to drag you in." "You didn't drag me," Teddy said softly. "I followed." Quinn's throat tightened. "I thought if I faced it alone, no one else would get hurt." "Did it work?" Quinn looked away. "No, I just almost disappeared." Teddy didn't answer. He didn't need to. Quinn set the mug down, pressed his hands to his face, then dropped them. "I want to stay." Teddy blinked. "Here?" "Not just Mourner's Crossing. Not just this house." He met Teddy's eyes. "This life, these hands, this name. Even if it breaks me sometimes, I want to stay. With you." Teddy swallowed. "Okay." "I'll need help," Quinn said. "I need someone to remind me I'm not a ghost." Teddy didn't hesitate. He kissed him. "You're not." They sat in silence. Teddy stood, walked to the hearth, pulled out a toolbox. When he returned, he held up duct tape, a hammer, and a few long boards. Quinn raised an eyebrow. Teddy gave him a crooked grin and bumped his shoulder. "You want to stay?" Quinn nodded. "Then let's board up that mirror." They climbed the stairs, together. Closure. The fog had lifted by morning. The light in Mourner's Crossing was soft and watery, filtered through clean windows and bare trees. The air smelled like pine, diner grease, and this last stretch of autumn before snow. The bell over the door jingled as Teddy stepped into the diner. He wasn't in uniform, just jeans and a hoodie. Skin flushed pink, hair damp from the shower. He carried 2 travel mugs, one with cream, one black, and slid into the window booth. The same one where he'd first waved Quinn over. Quinn was already there. He looked better, still pale, still quiet, but grounded. Like someone who had decided where and when to be. Simple wool sweater, sleeves pushed up. The bandage on his hand was new, neat. The waitress brought toast and eggs without asking. Nodded at Teddy on her way back. "You're late," Quinn said. "You're early," Teddy shot back. They shared coffee in silence. The diner was half full. Murmurs, silverware. Someone flipping through a copy of Crossing Confidential at the counter. No one looked twice. No one asked questions. Just 2 housemates. Coffee. November. "You still hearing anything?" Teddy asked. Quinn shook his head. "Not since we boarded up the Mirror." "You think it's done?" "I don't think it'll ever be done," Quinn said. Not bitter, just true. "But it's quieter. I can breathe." Teddy sipped his coffee. "That's all most of us ever ask for." A pause. "You're not gonna vanish again, right?" Quinn looked out the window. The town stretched beyond the glass, fog-washed and real. The chapel, the green, the general store, the crooked east wing of the library in the distance. "I could," he said, "but I don't want to." Teddy nodded. "Good." They stood. As they headed for the door, the waitress, Bethany, called out, "Come back soon, Quinn." He turned, hesitated, then smiled, just a little. "I think I will." Back in the cottage, the light had shifted. The fireplace was cold, the spiral of ash long gone. The mirror upstairs, covered, boarded, sealed. But if someone stood still enough, if they leaned in close, they might still see it. A faint silver crack beneath the surface. Like memory, like a door that's been closed, but not quite locked.